Hello and welcome back everyone. This is the 35-month update of the Sea Reefer 250. I'm going to go over some minor changes in the tank and I'm going to share with you an exciting upgrade that I'm planning for the Sea Reefer in terms of equipment. Hello and welcome back to Amro Azul TV. The tank has been cruising along and I'm just going to take you through some updates that happened this month. First, we'll do a parameter check. So I've been having a hard time keeping my alkalinity stable. This is around the time where we kind of go to vacation, and I find that every time I go on vacation, it kind of messes up my numbers, and I've been having a hard time trying to kind of keep it stable. So it essentially went from like 8.3 to right now it's around like 9.9. Calcium is fairly steady around 435 parts per million. That doesn't, the fluctuations are there, but it's pretty subtle, most likely just testing error. And magnesium, I'm still recovering from a magnesium overdose where I went essentially above 1500 because of a bad test kit. I'm not dosing, I'm just letting the tank gradually consume the excess magnesium. So that's where magnesium is at. My nitrates and phosphates, it's been kind of up and down with nitrates and phosphates. I'm finding that my tank is kind of consuming a little bit more nitrates and a little bit more phosphates than it usually does. So to combat that, I've upped my dosing of potassium nitrate as well as potassium phosphate. So my nitrates are around 10. You see more fluctuations in the phosphates here. So at some level, my phosphates were almost 0.05, and I like them to keep them around 0.1, 0.2. So I had to up my dosing of potassium phosphate, Seachem Flourish phosphates, if you're wondering. So that's the parameter check. In terms of other things that have happened in the tank, so I added this new arch. I asked you guys whether I should add it or not, and there was overwhelming response to add it. So I had it curing in a bucket of salt water for about a month, and I actually pre-drilled it. I pre-drilled 3 holes in the arch for SPS frags. You'll see from the side here when I shift perspective. But this is a carob sea dry rock, by the way, if you're wondering. It was surprisingly like tough to drill into, but I managed after a little bit. And so right now I moved one frag up, and this brown colony is actually a colony that a friend gave me to try to kind of recover because it was browning up in their tank. So that's it in terms of new aquascape. Other changes that have happened to the tank, we had a major snail spawn a couple of weeks ago. My trochus snails keep spawning, I think, every 2 months, and I think it's kind of great because I'm always getting baby snails, and I think the corals actually eat them. So this shockaholic is always, whenever the snails spawn, it extends its feeding tentacles, and several other SPS do so as well. I also harvested Chaetomorpha from my fuge. I do this every, I think, month or so, and this is the amount that I get. It's fairly large. My fuge is pretty small. It's the stock ATO reservoir in the Sea Reefer, and essentially it gets filled with Chaeto. And what I do every month or every month and a half or so is I just cut a small little ball, remove the rest, and put the small little ball back in the fuge. And then I did add a new fish to the tank, an 8-line flasher wrasse. His name is Crazy 8. I always wanted one of these guys, and I actually tried to get one before, but he got velvet in the QT and died. So this is my second attempt. I gave him a full 3-week quarantine in copper, as well as 2 rounds of general API to take care of internal and external parasites. I observed him in the QT and he did great. If you're wondering, I'm going to leave a link here on how I quarantine my wrasses. And then I was concerned about adding him to the tank because he's a flasher wrasse, and I already have a carpenter flasher wrasse. And every time you're mixing wrasses, especially of the same genus, you have to kind of be a little bit cautious. So I actually kept this little guy 2 days in my acclimation box. So I have this little acrylic box drilled with holes, clear acrylic, I think, and you essentially leave the wrasse in there. And what I'm looking for here is how the other fish are going to react to this wrasse. And what you want to see is exactly what you're seeing here. Is the wrasses are just coming up to the new fish and they're checking him out, but there is no signs of aggression. There is maybe an occasional flash of the fins, but it's not like one wrasse is trying to kill the other wrasse by by breaking into the box, which I've seen happen when you mix two wrasses that are incompatible. They're gonna show like really obvious signs of aggression. So this was kind of a best case scenario for me. It seems like the wrasses were, this is on day 2 of the acclimation box, and the wrasses are just kind of curious. They're not showing any signs of aggression. So I was really excited. I still kept him. There was no signs of aggression for in the first day, but I still kept him in acclimation box for 2 days just because it's always really difficult to get rid of a fish after you've released it into the DT. I mean, it's possible, but it's hit and miss, and you have to spend a lot of time with fish traps and baiting fish traps and sitting by the fish traps. So I rather kind of spend more time watching the fish interact with this acclimation box than releasing the fish prematurely and then having to worry about catching an aggressor or having the new fish die, essentially. So after 24 hours of this, the next morning, essentially, I released the 8-line wrasse. And whenever you're releasing fish out of the acclimation box, I think the best way to kind of increase the chances of success is you just make it rain food. So that's what I did. I fed nori. I would feed frozen every hour. I had pellets. I made it rain. But right away, the 2 carpenter wrasses and the fairy wrasse kind of formed a bond. You see here the Royal Grandma was kind of being a little bit aggressive, but no biting, is just kind of posturing. And they hit it off, and now they're like the 3 amigos: the fairy wrasse, the pintail fairy wrasse, and the carpenter flasher wrasse, and the crazy 8 are always hanging around together. And I just think they're really beautiful fish, and you'll see pictures of all my wrasses feeding here. So now I have a total of 5 wrasses. I have leopard wrasse. I have it's a Moyer leopard wrasse. I have a yellowtail tamarin wrasse, and I have the pintail fairy wrasse, and I have the carpenter flasher and the 8-line crazy wrasse. 8-line wrasse, which is called Crazy 8. If you play that game, you know where that name comes from. So that's I'm really enjoying my leap of wrasses. They add a lot of color and motion to the tank. They're always out swimming in the open, which is great, and they're always moving. And then the flasher wrasses do kind of flash to each other and towards other fish, which is kind of a beautiful display. If you've seen them flasher wrasse flash before, it's really hard to capture on camera, but they look gorgeous, like just crazy coloration. So I think I'm all set for my in terms of stock list. Unless I lose a fish or anything, I think there's going to be no more additions of fish to the tank for now. All right, so that's it for fish. Next up is going to be the mandatory, the obligatory, mandatory, super fun top-down tour of the SPS. Instead of telling you about like the SPS blow by blow, because I do this every month, and I think you all know my SPS by now, I'm just going to tell you about like my experiences as we see the beautiful corals. I'm going to tell you about my experiences with doing automatic water changes for the last month using the dose. So if you've missed the last few videos, you'd have seen that I've implemented an automatic water change system using the dose, which I've set up in my basement beside the saltwater container, and it's been great. I mean, it's I thought that having my automatic the ATO reservoir being in the basement was the best thing since sliced bread, and it is. But doing automatic water changes from the basement is to me right now the best thing since sliced bread. I literally have not had to move a bucket of water up and down the stairs for about a month, which was, I had to do it like every week. Drag like 5 gallons of water up and take 5 gallons of water down. It's a lot of work. And when you're starting a new tank, you know that there's going to be maintenance involved, and especially with a saltwater tank. But it's just the time kind of spent every week doing water changes. It's all manual labor, and it's kind of fun. But really, just having the system do it for you is so much better in my opinion. This is the pink lemonade, the new frag that I'm doing. The corals are all looking really good. I've actually noticed like a big spurt of growth. I've been noticing like signs of unusually fast growth over the last month or two, and I can't really put my finger to it why, but it seems like all the corals are happy. This is the pink Cadillac, and you see that kind of the classic blue polyps and big tips. It's looking pretty mean. In terms of other things that I'm planning to do, here's the California tort, which is again beautiful. One thing that I'm planning to do very recently, as soon as I actually get my hand on the product, is install an Apex Trident. I know you guys heard me talk about automatic water testing for a while, and as soon as the Apex Trident was announced a couple of I think last week actually, I contacted my local LFS and I placed an order. So I'm second on the list. The first person got their Trident this week, and I'm told that I'm going to get my Trident next week. So why did I get a Trident? And there's the reaction on the Trident on the forums is kind of really funny. Some people is just like, oh my god, this is amazing, and some people's like, wow, this is so overpriced, you're going to be wasting all of this money on reagents and so on, and so there's this kind of love and hate relationship with the Trident. The reason that I want to get a Trident is actually really simple. I go on vacation and I travel a lot, and as you see from this is the Marvin the Martian is doing really well. That little frag, it's about a couple of months old now. So if you look at my ALK chart, you see that it fluctuates a lot, and this is not ideal, right? You want to keep ALK as stable as possible, and I struggle with that whenever I go on vacation, because our house is built in a way that it's super insulated, which means it traps carbon dioxide. So as soon as we leave the house to go on vacation, the carbon dioxide levels fizzle out and the pH increases in the tank, and it drives calcification rates, which makes the corals consume more alkalinity. So it's always been a guessing game. Whenever I go on vacation, I try to just kind of guess how much more alkalinity the tank is going to consume. And last time I essentially upped the values by 25%. But it's not ideal, right? Obviously, it's all of these fluctuations are probably like setting back my tank a little bit. So this is the only reason why I got the Trident, is just to it's good to have constant testing, and it's good not to have to do the test, but really the main reason that I want to get it is just to get that peace of mind when I'm away from the tank for a week or 2 weeks. This year we're actually planning to be away from the tank for a month. I know it's a little bit crazy, and I'm really anxious about leaving the tank for a month, but I have a family, and I don't want to I don't want to have the tank be a reason to kind of just chain us to this place and preventing us from going out and enjoying vacation together. And in addition to the Trident, I also went ahead and I ordered an additional dosing pump from Neptune Apex. And that will essentially allow me to have the Apex adjust the dosing of 2-part solution for me when I'm on vacation. So there's an option where the data coming in from the Trident on what the levels are in terms of alkalinity and calcium, and the dose pump will then add more or less 2-part solution in order to keep the parameters within a certain range that you define. So I think it's going to be really cool. Obviously, I'm going to have to test the system before I fully trust it and leave on vacation. But I can't wait to get the equipment, and I'm going to do videos on it as soon as I have it in hand, showing you how it works in my system. I actually don't know I don't think the Trident is going to fit in my cabinet, so I think I might just kind of leave it on the side of the tank. It does look pretty sleek. All right, next up is my plans for the 3-year anniversary of the tank. So next month is going to be the 3-year anniversary of the tank. Yay! And I have a series of cool videos for you. So I'm going to do the typical 3-year anniversary video. I'm going to do the 3-year of SPS growth video. That's my time-lapse pictures or my once a month pictures of my SPS over the past 3 years. I'm also going to do a video, kind of a report card on all of the equipment that I have been running for the last 3 months. So what I really like and what I don't like and what equipment you should avoid. And then I'm going to do a video on the top 5 mistakes that I did when I was setting up the Reefer 250. So things that I would have done differently. And hopefully that might kind of help you if you're setting up a new reef tank. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next month. Have a good one. Bye.